folks, to another edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider. Back from a mini hiatus. Last week was a holiday, Thanksgiving, but boy, did a whole lot happen. The Lions won, seems like ages ago. Maybe the worst example of clock mismanagement I've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
And then our Wolverines went and took care of the Buckeyes. And they say this might be, no, it is the biggest upset in the history of the rivalry.
What do they say? It's great to be a Michigan Wolverine.
Right. I got to ask my esteemed colleague and friend, one of the best basketball players ever to come out of the state of Michigan. I call him Timmy Mack. 1984 here at the University of Michigan, a first-round draft pick. He's a big timer. 10 years in the NBA. He has been a commentator, one of the best in the land. But like I like to say, my friend and my esteemed colleague, and always a diehard Wolverine. Yes, we talk mostly basketball, but Tim, we talk some football too, especially when our Wolverines knock out the Buckeyes. How are you today?
I am so happy. So to put it in perspective, I was in Pasadena with my family last year. I just thought this is the greatest sporting event of all time. I will never be this happy in my whole life. I was right in the end zone when Blake Corum came right there. I had a great view of the last stop. And it is crazy to think that a game in terms of standings, it wasn't that important, but I enjoyed Saturday as much as I did the Rose Bowl. It's crazy to say. Sam, my dad turned 90.
Wow.
And we had 20 of his kids and grandkids and all in the house watching the game with him and with my mom. And every time there was a big play, everybody was high-fiving and hugging him. And it caught me off guard at how much I enjoyed that game. I didn't expect it. I should have been listening to you more because you were prepping me all week on the fact that Michigan, if they were there in the fourth quarter, could win it. You were so right. And I am thrilled with the direction of the program.
Yeah, that was. Now, listen, to be clear, I didn't predict that they would win.
I know. So you said if they're there, they've got a shot.
Yeah,
That's what I took away.
Yeah, so I don't wanna be revisionist. I didn't say that they went, but I said they had a chance. Like no one was giving them a chance, and I said, wait, hold up. And Vance did too, and Vance gave it more color. Mm-hmm. Said, this is a very started on Monday. Said, this is the path that they have. They just gotta hang around, and it involves shortening the game, limiting possessions, and playing to their strengths, which is their defensive line can dominate this game. Their front seven can dominate this game. They can own that offensive line, and they gotta play that game. They gotta play it in a box, and that's exactly what they did. Be your hang around in the fourth quarter, one possession game, and now you're in their heads, and that's exactly what happened because it's the fourth quarter game, and you got them.
Those seniors, man, Makari Page changed the game, and Mullins, and I loved it. I'm still happy. I'm still smiling a lot, and I felt like I'm going to take Sam's lead, and if somehow the Wolverines can be in the game down the stretch in Madison against the Badgers, they could win that one too.
yeah, and I've been thinking about you, Tim. You gotta, especially when you talk about a season. A season is not a sprint, right? Especially when you talk about new players. Especially when you talk about players, and you've been talking about like Vlad. Vlad has a track record. He's established himself as a player in college basketball. He's playing with a bunch of guys who are not used to playing with a big. And Danny Wolf, and you made this point. How many shows have we done now? 3, 4. Say, Sam, what viewers? Danny Wolf is not used to playing this role. You got to give him time to get used to playing this role. And man, it's like the span of 2 games in like warp speed, these guys seem to have gotten really, really comfortable, Tim, because these last 2 games, those 2 bigs they've been dynamite. And the results have been outstanding because Michigan has knocked out 2 ranked opponents in back-to-back games. And obviously this last one, the more impressive of the 2, knocking out Wisconsin.
Yeah, Sam, Michigan's win was exceptional. It was I didn't expect it. I still think they have some growing pains ahead. That might be the best win by any Big Ten team so far. And here's the argument that I would make. Wisconsin was 8-0, first place in the Big Ten in terms of their record. Wisconsin went to Arizona, I believe, and beat them by 15. They beat Pittsburgh. They've got reliable big men, some elite shooters, some strong drivers. That's a really good team. And Michigan went in there and dominated the paint. I thought that Wolf and Goldin were incredible. And we finally got what we've been calling for from Vlad. You know, he went in there and he played manly. One of the things that really impressed me about him when I watched him in the early part of practices is how that guy can dunk on people. He dunks the ball really well, does not have to jump real high to make it happen. And I had a really good conversation with Dusty May at the last practice I went to. I said, you know, Vlad seems tentative, and you've worked with him for so long. What advice are you giving him? And his answer was just, it was perfect. He said that there have been times in the past where Vlad will bring the ball down, gather himself, and then go up. And they've been working specifically on keeping the ball high before a defender can strip it. And on those dunks against the Badgers, he just caught it and went right over the top so much quicker. And you could see the confidence building. And I also love the 2-man big game, you know, with Wolf and Vlad. People don't know how to cover that. And I was thinking back, maybe you can help me. I don't think that Ralph and Olajuwon ever did that. Right. I've seen Porzingis do it a little bit. Jokic has done it. Anthony Davis, maybe Embiid, but it's never caught on. And nobody that I've seen did it better for a stretch than our 2 big guys. What did you think? Can you remember anybody, Sam?
I can't think of no. I mean, I'm stumped.
Yeah.
To think of a pairing where you could put 2 guys on the floor that can cause, because you got to have a guy, you got to have a trigger man, you got to have a ball handler that can function, that can operate it. You know, that's the part. You know, Danny Wolf is a threat. He can shoot it. He can handle it. He can make the decisions. And, you know, you started to be worried if that was really, you know, are we being overly ambitious here with that? You know, starting to think that this, you know, maybe it could work against some of the lower level teams. But when you start to play the ranked opponents, that will be exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Really started to feel like that. And, you know, want to focus mostly on the Wisconsin game. But, dude, they came out against Xavier. These dudes scored for like the first 13 points of the game. And it's like off to the races. And it's like, you know, he popped a couple threes and he hit, you know, Vlad in transition. And they, you know, you saw the 2-man game in that game first start to hit. But in the Wisconsin game, it was on steroids. They could not stop the 2-man game. They couldn't stop it. And then now it's like he has them on a string. I mean, he's crossing them up off the dribble and dropping passes and going off the dribble himself and hitting them with a layup. And it's like, whoa, what is this? This dude is looking like Detlef Shrimp out there. Who is this guy?
I like
So
that.
I'm taking him back, Tim. Who is this guy right now?
Yeah.
Danny Wolf. I mean, this what I've seen the last 2 games, I didn't expect.
Well,
I didn't expect at any point this season. Forget right now against Wisconsin. What I'm telling you is what I've seen. We just had the discussion a couple of shows ago about the best player on the team being Trey Donaldson. And what I'm telling you, Tim, is what we just saw from Danny Wolf over the span of 2 games, I didn't think he was capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me say, okay, now we gotta pause and we gotta say, to be determined who's the best player on the team. Yes. I'm not ready to say it's Trey anymore. I'm not ready to say it's Danny yet. I'm ready to say, okay, now we got to say Danny Wolf is in the conversation.
It's a good problem to have. I did come up with one combo that reminded me a little bit of the way that Danny and Vlad played. It wasn't for a long time, but when Ben Simmons was playing with Joel Embiid for the Sixers, and he's more of a point guard, but he was throwing that pass really effectively. That's the only one I could come up with. In terms of, I said it too, Trey Donaldson early was Michigan's best player. I thought that would continue. It probably will, but maybe not to the same degree. I'm going to put you on the spot. How many Michigan Wolverines are currently in the top 40? That's a big number. The top 40 scorers in the Big Ten.
Oh, wow. How many Wolverines?
Top 40. Go. You can tweet this out, Sam. Nobody will get this.
Danny Wolf, one?
0.
0? Wow.
Danny Wolf is number 41 at 12 points a game. Nobody is in the top.
Danny didn't even make it. Wow.
But that's a good problem to have, because who do you focus on when everybody can be a weapon? And Danny Wolf the other night was one of the best big man stat lines that I've ever seen. Let me find it here. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 5 block shots. That's a Chris Webber stat line. And the point I want to make about having so many guys that can take off, my guess is that the defensive genius, Fran McCaffrey, well, I mean, that's funny. No, but Fran's team
that's
is
like
going.
Calling me tall, Tim. You just called me tall. I'm a 7-footer.
Fran McCaffrey's team is going to take that play away. Okay. And I'm very anxious to see what they do. They are not going to allow that pick and roll to hurt them. So who else steps up? And here's another talking point about that. How in the world does Michigan go into the Kohl Center and win when Trey Donaldson, Reuben Jones, LJ Kaysen, and Sam Walters played a combined 63 minutes, 0 field goals?
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way you win that game, right?
Right. And the one to me, you said combined 0 field goals, but just Trey Donaldson, period. Trey Donaldson having 0 field goals. Yeah. I understand you say all those other guys, but Trey Donaldson, the player that you and I agreed a few shows ago was the best player on the team, having 0 points. They would just beat, what were they, the number 11 team in the country? In the Kohl Center. We also agree, one of the hardest places, if not the hardest place in the Big Ten to win.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
So the Badgers are really a good team, and they could not run their offense. And I can't remember saying that about them. That's what they do. They have low turnovers and they get everybody involved. They shot 34% from the field. They missed 21 threes. Michigan had a 19-4 fast break advantage. And I think that there's so much to be excited about. This is year one.
Yeah.
And I think that this is an A+ start to this season. I don't see how you could give them anything other than an A+ for how they've done.
So, it's interesting to hear Dusty talk about, what they are in their philosophy, how they've developed or how they're developing defensively. Mike Boynton, he's really pleased with how guys are really adapting defense. He said, we aren't very black and white defensively. It's not do this or do that. You got to think a lot. There's a lot of decision making defensively. And so he can see guys really starting to sort of internalize that. And he said, offensively, we want to get shots up quick. It's fundamental to what we do. We want to exploit matchups. And so for us, exploiting matchups is about getting down and taking care of or taking advantage of sort of how, because we switch a lot, some of these sort of cross, matchups that we are, once we get down the floor, they haven't adjusted, and we can take advantage of that on the other end. That's why we are trying to get shots up quick to exploit those matchups. But one of my questions to you, Tim, has all been, okay, now, but what happens when you are in your half court offense and you haven't gotten that shot up quick? You are calling a set, and I feel like you aren't always going to be able to move at that pace in the Big Ten. And what are you going to be able to hang your hat on? And I'm feeling like they're finding that thing with this too big action. And it's feeling like teams are going, I don't know how they're going to, if what we're seeing right now is the case, I think they're going to be able to hang their hat on that. And certainly, and the rest of the team is looking like it's feeling more comfortable finding, dumping it down to Vlad. He's establishing position. He's catching the ball. He's finishing. He hits some hooks. He's dunking on people, like you said. It's like, okay, starting to feel like they're establishing some comfort here. So that what I was looking for and asking you about, when are they going to be able to hang their hat on when they aren't getting up and down, starting to settle into some things right now.
I still have concerns. I don't think that they're a finished product at all. I would imagine that Iowa, even though they play a big guy and a lot of perimeter players, they're pretty soft defensively. I think you'll see a lot of drop coverage, kind of like we do when we're trying to figure out how they're going to get a mismatch when they have a point guard trying to have Vlad switch onto them. I think Iowa will play drop coverage. A lot of people will. Other concerns I have, Michigan still leads the Big Ten in turnovers, but it's getting better. It's a lot better. And Danny Wolf and the non-high usage guys have to keep their turnovers low. That's a concern. You've got to make your free throws at the end of the game. Two front end. That Roddy Gale missed one, Vlad missed one. That kills you. Who's the go-to guy? I already mentioned that one. I think that's significant. I also think that Michigan is missing way too many layups. And I want you to save this tidbit, Sam, because I don't think a lot of people talk about it. One of the great advantages that a team should have if they've got good shot blockers, and Michigan blocked 11 shots against the Badgers. Roddy Gale had the play of the game.
Yeah,
when he went up. So a team that has good shot blockers should be really good finishing around the rim. Why? Every day in practice, they get by their man and they go up to finish. Oh, there's Vlad right there. How do I finish? They get more practice at finishing against shot blockers than anybody else because they've got two of them in their practices. So they should be a lot better. And then the last thing that I think they could really improve on, Sam, they are very sloppy in terms of their pre-shot work for three-pointers. The easiest three-pointers in the corner, the second easiest one is anywhere else that you can get your toes on the line, get in balance, catch the ball, and shoot it. Michigan's got, and Sam Walters is probably the worst at this. You can tell when he's going to make it because he gets his toes on the line, he catches it on balance, and he gets a good look at the rim. If he's got to shoot it really quick, his shot is flat. It hits the front of the rim. And I think that Roddy –
he shot a brick versus Wisconsin. I was shocked.
Yeah, and that's not like him. Sam, when he does his pre-shot work, he doesn't miss. But when he goes quick, like a lot of guys, I think that's a problem.
Yeah. You know, something you said resonates with me. When does their size show up? You know, they block shots, and that 5 blocks for Danny Wolf. That was one of the things, at least when sort of reading up on what I didn't know a lot about Danny Wolf when he was coming in. And so in reading up on him, they were like, I don't expect him to block a lot of shots. You know, you're going to get on the defensive end, the guy who's going to block the shots is going to be Vlad Goldin. So I wasn't expecting him to be a guy who would be much of a presence as far as shot blocking is, because that's why, you know, kind of need to lay eyes on him yourself. I think that part of the scout was wrong. Like, this dude is going to be able to block it. He obviously is. And that's one place where the size, I think, applies. I don't think the size really applies on the glass. And they say, the coaches say as much. This has been a major talking point. They say we need to be better on the defensive glass. We need to be better on the defensive glass. And I'm curious your thoughts on this, Tim. You know, Mike Boynton said something a couple weeks ago that had Daniel Horton in the tizzy. And I'm curious your thoughts on it as a big man. He said, our guys, they aren't natural rebounders. They aren't natural at it. So we gotta teach them to we gotta teach them to be more strategic about it, because, you know, they don't do it naturally. It's not instinctive for them. And so we got to give them little tricks of the trade. And, you know, Daniel's like, what is he? That just really bothered him. He's like, what? I mean, do they just only practice offense? Like, are they, you know, they must not practice boxing out. They must not get the pads out and just work on rebounding. Like, what is he talking about? It bothered him a ton. He said, how much effort are they putting into making sure these guys are putting a body on a body, you know, sticking a forearm on a guy, and making sure they're getting physical with a man to make sure they're getting on the glass. And I'm curious, as a big man, what you think about the concept of these guys just not really being instinctive and not naturally rebounding. What do you think about that?
I hope Daniel wasn't in a tizzy. Did you give him a hug and tell him it's okay? Because, you know, I think what Mike Boynton was saying is that some guys are able to chase down rebounds and rebound out of their zone. I think that Vlad Goldin, he's straight up and down. His lateral movement, not great. So anything in his area from here to here, he's going to get. Danny Wolf will chase a rebound down. But what they need to be able to do is get the guards to help out more. Roddy Gale needs to be a better rebounder, and Sam Walters needs to be a better rebounder when they're on the court. And I think I shared this with you. I always thought it was interesting the way that the Pistons at times would struggle on the glass because everybody assumed Dennis Rodman was going to get every rebound. But it's unfair because, you know, sometimes the ball will bounce out of their zone, and we could not keep Blackwell off the boards. You know, somebody's got to be able to get him, put a body on him, push him out of there, so the easy rebounds will go to the big guys. Another thing, Sam, I actually smiled at this particular play because it showed how much growth they still need. A minute to go, Vlad Goldin went up in traffic and grabbed a manly rebound. He threw his elbows around, cleared space, and everybody left him. And he was so good, except he just took the ball and panicked and launched the ball down. It went out of bounds off Roddy Gale. Trey Donaldson was not in the game. The point guard knows to always come back and get the ball. Somebody else has to see that. And Vlad Goldin has to have the poise to say, okay, last time out, they said we've got 2 timeouts left with 1 minute to go. Timeout, let's talk this over. That was a huge play, and Michigan did not finish the way they needed to. They missed free throws. They had a couple careless turnovers, and they were very fortunate. But we'll focus on the good news, Sam.
Yeah, because Wisconsin obviously had a chance at the end there to tie the game, and shouldn't have had a chance to tie the game. But Michigan got the W. That's the most important thing. Let's focus on the positive. And another positive to focus on, and you kind of mentioned it. Listen, turnovers have been down.
Yeah,
there were 12 turnovers against Xavier, only 10 turnovers against Wisconsin. The guy that we've been talking about, Danny Wolf, he had 3 turnovers against Xavier. He only had 1 turnover against Wisconsin. They're doing better work. They're taking better care of the basketball. That is huge. Especially it's huge anywhere, but especially on the road. So there's some things that they still got to get better at, that they got to clean up, things to be concerned about. But some of the major things, or that's the major thing that we've been talking about, taking care of the basketball, they've been doing a better job of that.
Yeah.
So
do you remember when you were a little kid and the street lights came on and you just felt so much freedom? You're running around like a wild man, and it was fun on a hot summer night. That's the way Danny Wolf is. Like, he's always been right in the paint, back to the basket. Now all of a sudden he's got the ball and he's trying to go through his legs, and he's dribbling and trying to create. He's having so much fun. He's got to be able to tone it down a bit.
I hear you. You're right. But Tim, I guess I'm of the mind that he could do more of that than I thought he was capable of.
He's good.
I guess I'm not so keen on putting a leash on him.
Okay.
I'm not so keen on it anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching him cross guys up and make a play for someone else. I'm watching him cross guys up, get to the rim, and reverse layup and make it. It's not like he's looking like you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just.
No, you're right. You're right.
Pump the brake. I know where you're coming from. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that maybe we're being colored by our preconceived notions of what he could do.
Yeah, I was watching the Boston Celtics last night run out the Pistons, and they've got a center named Luke Cornett. And as I was watching him, I thought he's a little bit taller, but I think Danny Wolf has so much better potential. I think Danny Wolf's going to play in the NBA someday.
Yeah, see, I think here's what I think. I think that we need to let him and let the coaches see what he can do.
Mm-hmm. Right?
I think there's a part of him that needs to try it against guys at this level.
Yeah.
And maybe he can't. Maybe he can't do it consistently at this level, and then you rein it in. Mm-hmm. But you got to let him try it first.
Yeah, I think you're right. I guess my point was more, come on, basketball is a privilege, and you can't wildly throw passes. Like throw the 80% pass instead of the 20% pass. And so
time, place. I hear you. I guess I'm surprised. Let's just put it that way. He's doing things that I didn't think he was capable of doing.
Well said.
So that's where I am. And so maybe Dusty and the coaches aren't surprised, and that's probably why they have him doing some of the things they have him doing, some of this pick and roll stuff. And we were all looking at it like this doesn't seem like.
Yeah. We seem like the old guys sitting on the porch saying these young whippersnappers, they don't know what they're doing. I give Dusty May a ton of credit. Like there are other people that have had 2 7-footers that are fairly skilled. Like he's really the first one that's done it. He's an innovator. And I think on Saturday, we're going to find out if this team are really contenders at the top of the Big Ten. I think it's a great opportunity at home against Iowa.
Yeah, I think that the biggest test of this sort of experiment, which like they're going to be able to play with it, no matter, they're going to be able to play with it all season. I'm convinced of that. It's going to be an offensive weapon. Now, how big of an offensive weapon is it going to be? Is going to be a function of how durable it is defensively. To me, okay. Can they guard all game? Teams that some of the teams that have quickness and try to take them off the dribble. That is going to be the test to me, because I'm convinced on the offensive end, watching what they're doing, the chemistry that he and Vlad have. Yeah, I think they're going to be able to do. They're going to be able to get down on that end. Now I want to see what happens when they face a team that can really get at them with some quickness on that end of the floor and take a Danny Wolf off the dribble and really get after them that way.
Well, here's the challenge: is that Iowa? I really like Owen Freeman. I think he's their best player. He's their top scorer, top rebounder, top shot blocker. After that, Peyton Sanford's probably their next biggest guy at 6'8". And he's a soft shooter. He's a good player, but who's he going to cover? And this pick and roll is going to be very interesting to see how they do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it happens. And just your style can dictate a fight. As easily to stick to that point. If some team is playing with quickness at the 4, Michigan can very easily go on the other end and dictate with their size against them. Can you sort of like Michigan, Ohio State? Are you going to let their speed dictate, or are you going to let your power and physicality dictate?
It depends who the coach is.
Yeah. So
it'll be fun. Iowa and Michigan both have identical 7-1 records. Utah State went to Iowa and beat them. Iowa has not played a true road game this year. And they're going to keep scoring. That's what they do. In their 7 wins, 6 times they've scored over 80 points. So Michigan can't be soft. They can't worry about the stuff that takes them out of their comfort zone. And I also think somebody else is going to step up big. I don't know who it's going to be. They're going to get open shots against Iowa, and so they just have to knock them down.
Of course they are. Of course they're going to get as long as Fred McCaffrey is coaching, open shots are going to happen against the Iowa Hawkeyes. So looking forward to seeing that. Looking forward to the next show. It is going to be a lot of fun. And Tim, are you ready? Because you always do this before we sign off. You always give us a prediction about what's going to happen in the next game. So are the Wolverines going to come out on top?
I've got my Wolverine Santa, and I'm trying. I want to bring this out because you've been going so hard with recruiting. I want you to go home and relax and buy some presents and get into the holiday spirit and enjoy the game Saturday, because I think that Michigan is too big inside. I think they control the boards. And I think a big bounce back game from Trey Donaldson. I don't think defensively they can keep him out of the paint. So the Wolverines win by 8 points.
Gotcha. There you have it, folks. Us will be here to break it all down with you. Looking forward to it. So be sure to tune in to the next edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider. We'll see you then.